All right, welcome back, fellas. Welcome to lesson 3, part 1, professional email etiquette. This is just a reminder that if at any time you need to take a break, need to walk away, need to respond to a phone call, feel free to pause the video, take care of your business, and then let's continue with the lesson and get that information across that you guys are looking for. All right, so let's just dive into professional email format. Now, you guys got a chance to create your emails in the last lesson. Right, but now we're going to dive into a professional side of emails. Right, professional email is a format that you definitely want to use when you're talking to a potential employer, a supervisor, a teacher, right? Someone who is on a professional level, right? And so you guys want to definitely get familiar with this format, take your time with this format, because you are going to be having a conversation with someone who you would consider professional, who you would put in high regard. So let's dive right into it. So when I hit that compose button to create my new email, I immediately start with the subject, right? No, we learned about the subject in the last lesson, but this is just a reminder that the subject summarizes the email. It could be a word, it could be a phrase. It should tell me what the rest of the email is about. So in the example in front of you, you see that the subject is key points. That should be somewhere located within my message, should summarize what that message is about. So, like I said, when I start my professional email, start at the subject. And once I have completed my subject, remember I'm going to take my mouse and I'm going to left click underneath the subject. This is telling me that I'm ready to start typing the body of the email. And so we're going to start with the greeting, right? So when I include a greeting in the email, I'm talking about when I say hello, good morning, good evening, to whom it may concern, right? It's kind of like a conversation. I'm not going to just walk up to someone and just start talking. I'm going to greet them first. I'm going to say, hey, what's going on? Hello, right? So when I start my professional email, I start with the greeting, all right? If you're going to use someone's name, like if you say, hello, Miss Edwin, please make sure you're spelling that individual's name correctly. You don't want to get on the wrong foot with mistakes and errors. So you want to take your time and make sure that name is spelled correctly. After you have included their name, so in the example it says, hello, Miss Edwin. I don't know if you guys can see it, but it has a little comma right after her name. That means I'm finished with my greeting and I want to move on to what would be my message. So before I move on to the message, I have to create some space. You don't want to have all your words on top of each other. It's not really pleasing to the eye, and it might challenge the reader. You want to make this a clean email by creating that space. So in order to create spacing in the email, you're just going to go ahead and hit enter twice. That creates that space between your greeting and what would be your message. Right? So we are now at the message, the body of the email. I like to call this the meat, right? So if I have a hamburger, I have my patty, I have my bun, I have my meat, right? The hamburger. Might have some lettuce, might have some tomatoes sprinkled in there, ketchup, right? And then I have a bun, right? The hamburger makes up the sandwich, right? So I call the message the meat. It makes up the email. It's the whole purpose of why the email is being sent, right? So in your message, you should be clear and polite, right? Be very specific, be very detail oriented. Get what you want across here in the message of the email. Be sure to check for spelling and punctuation. Because you guys are going to be typing a lot in this section, mistakes can happen. Spelling errors can happen. But remember, if a word is misspelled, what am I looking for? That red squiggly line, right? That's the indication that the word is misspelled. Remember to correct that. I'm just going to simply right-click on that misspelled word, find the word that we want, and select it with the left click, right? So once I have typed my message, I'm going to go ahead and hit enter twice again, right? That will indicate that I'm finished with my message and I'm ready to either move on to a new paragraph, right? Or a new section of my email, right? So remember, when I create that space, I'm going to hit enter twice. So in this email, you're going to be hitting enter twice a couple of times. So the first one is right after the greeting. The second one is after the message, right? I hit enter twice. And I then move on to my sign off, also known as my signature. Right? So The sign off, for example, could be respectfully, sincerely, thank you. If I'm talking about or talking to someone I care about, maybe with love, with regard, right? There's a couple examples out there that you guys can use. Best regards, thank you, again, right? And that will be your sign off, right? Once you have chosen a sign off, go ahead and put that comma, right? So we have the comma in the greeting, and then you also have the comma after the sign off, right? Once you have typed your sign off, go ahead and enter twice one last time. Once you have hit enter twice again for the very last time, it's time to move on to that signature, right? When I say signature, I'm talking about your first and last name. Always type out your name in the signature. In a work-related or professional email, you can also include your title, your position, and your contact information. Now, because we are in a classroom setting right now, and you guys are practicing with professional email format, I don't need you guys to include trainee. I don't need you guys to put your phone numbers, bed numbers. Just your first and last name will work in this case, all right? So remember, in your signature, include your first and last name. Again, no phone numbers, no job titles, no bed numbers. So once I have completed my professional email format, I started with my subject. I moved on to the greeting, where I had put the comma at the end of that greeting. I hit enter twice. I started my message. This is the meat of the email. I spent some time on it, looked for errors. I then hit enter twice again, move off to my sign off, which is my closing, sincerely, best regard. I hit enter twice again, and I finish with my signature. Now, once I have all this information on the screen, I'm going to want to proofread it. Check for errors, check for mistakes, make sure names are spelled correctly. Again, this is a professional email, and so we want to come off as professional. And if there are no mistakes in the email, that will speak very highly of how much time you spent on the email and that you actually care. So once I have proofread my email, it looks good. My message is in the email. Everything I wanted to say is there, and I'm happy with it. Now it's time to include the email address of the person I'm sending it to. So if you go to the top where it says to, if you look on the screen, it has the email address of the person I'm sending it to, all right? But keep in mind, I can send an email to multiple people, not just one email address, right? So I can add up to several email addresses next to the word to. So if I want to send it to maybe a few of my coworkers, I can simply put it right next to each other. Or I can do something known as a CC, right, which is known as carbon copy. It sends a copy of an email to someone else that you want to notify. So when I say CC, I want you guys to actually think of me seeing, right? So a CC, one, I can see who's on the email, so I can see who received it, right? And if I reply all, everyone can visually see the message. Got it? Also, so when you CC people in an email, the CC list is visible to other recipients. Like I said, everyone can see who received it. And if I hit reply all, everyone can see the message. Think of it as tagging someone in a post or a Facebook picture, right? You want everyone to see the picture, so you tag them in it. Everyone is on the same page. Communication reaches multiple people at one time. Now, there's something called a BCC, known as a blind carbon copy, right? What's the difference? I'll explain in a minute, right? So CC, carbon copy, right? Everyone gets a copy. Everyone can see who receives the email. Blind carbon copy is just what it seems. It's blind. No one can see who else received it. All you know is that you received that email. If you cannot reply all because you can't see who else received it. So the only option you can do is reply to that email or forward it if you want to. But again, no one can see the list of recipients on the BCC. Someone on the BCC list can see everything else, included the CC list and the contents of the email, but they cannot see the recipients. Now let's just say I composed the email and I didn't include the email address. I just got so excited to finally send it that I hit the send button. I don't want you to get worried about it, because if you don't include an email, it won't send. In fact, you'll get a message that looks like this. Error. Please specify at least one recipient. Right? So if you don't remember to include an email address, don't worry. Google has done a great job in saying, hey, are you sure you want to send it? In this case, they say error. Please specify at least one recipient. This way you don't accidentally send the email to either the wrong person, right? Or send a blank email to no one. Right? If there is no email address, it cannot be sent out by accidentally. Right? So you want to make sure that you guys take your time. Start with the format that I gave you guys. Start with the subject. Start with the greeting, message, sign off, proofread, right? Then make sure it's ready to go. And you know it's ready when you move on to the email address. At the end of the day, your professional email format should look like this. It should be a subject. Move on to my greeting. Get with the message. Then I last with the sign off. I proofread, then add my email address. Now this is the format you guys will be using moving forward in all lessons. So I want you guys to get very familiar with this format. Congratulations, guys. You finished lesson 3, part 1. I want you guys to go on to Google Classroom and go to classwork, where you guys can complete your lesson 3, part 1 assignment. Good luck, fellas.